Welcome everyone to German Tool Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of different Torx bit styles from Wera. I got the idea for this comparison when flipping through the Wera catalog and seeing several pages just for Torx bits, and I was surprised at how much variation there was. There's literally over a dozen pages in the catalog dedicated to just Torx bits. We'll look at three styles here: standard, wedge, and HF for holding function. There isn't a whole lot of description in the catalog to describe the features of each and how they actually differ from one another. The only mention is a quick picture for the wedge style that shows a 2 to 3 degree draft on the profile of the bit that is supposed to provide a pinching effect. Looking at the profiles of these closely, the differences are quite subtle. For the wedge bit, you can definitely see that there's a slightly larger diameter towards the tip of the bit, which allows it to wedge itself into the Torx profile. The holding function bit looks the most interesting. It has small ridges that have been etched into the edges of the bit, sort of like what you might see on the laser tip drivers. I also have a control bit here that I got from one of those stainless wood screw boxes. You can definitely tell a difference in quality between this one and the standard Wera one. Looks like they're using some dull tooling to roll this profile. Now to see how each of these bits fit, I'll use these stainless steel wood screws. I first checked the standard Wera bit against the control one, and they actually felt pretty much exactly the same, which is what I expected. It did feel like the Wera bit had a bit more depth into the Torx profile than the control, but this just might be an optical illusion due to the different ways that they are cut. When you zoom way in on the fit, I was surprised at how much slack there is with the standard Torx bit. I guess it's something I really never noticed before, but there's definitely a lot of tolerance. Now looking at the wedge style bit, you can tell right away it has a much closer fit just by the absence of gaps around the bit when inserted into the fastener. The holding function bit is somewhere in between the normal and wedge styles, with it being much closer to the wedge style. There is a difference, but it is quite subtle. Of course, the selling point for the holding function bit is that it will grab onto the screw, allowing you to use it for one-handed operations. The wedge style can hold the screw at certain angles, but gravity will eventually overcome the tight fit that the wedge style provides. Now testing these bits with some stainless steel wood screws, one thing to note is that each of these bits will get the job done in most applications. Throwing a couple screws in using the normal bit, you often need a second hand to center the bit due to the amount of play, as it might be hard to get started in very hard materials. The wedge bit doesn't have this problem as it seems to self-center due to its conical fit. By far my favorite bit of the three was the one with the holding function. Not having to use two hands to get the screw started was a lot more efficient than I initially thought. When first using it, I did have a couple of instances where the bit actually stayed with the screw when moving the driver. I really tried to use all three of these equally at first, but I felt myself going back to the holding function bit. If you're working on a ladder, I could see this bit as indispensable, as you can easily perform the fastening operation with a single hand. I ended up using the holding function bit for about another hour, and as you can see, I really put it to the ringer here. As expected, the coating on the bit started to wear away almost immediately, but the holding function ridges are still present on the bit. So in terms of longevity, I feel like these holding function ridges would last quite a while, but will eventually wear down and then become unable to hold the screw. I suppose using these on stainless steel screws like I did would prolong the life of the bit, since stainless steel is a relatively soft fastener material compared to normal steel screws. I didn't catch this on camera, but I had one screw that did come out when using the holding function bit. I tried to remove it with that same bit, but was unable to back it out. However, after using the wedge bit, I was able to remove the screw with no problem at all. I'm glad I didn't need to use an easy out to remove the screw, and having a set of these wedge bits around might not be a bad idea if you deal with Torx screws frequently. I found nowhere in the Wera catalog or advertising material that indicated that the wedge bit styles are suitable for removing damaged screws, which kind of surprised me. There is a pretty significant price difference in these bits, especially the wedge bit. The normal bit style TX25 retails for about $1.60, the holding function bit at around $2, and the wedge bit at around $4. With the wedge bit being double of that of the holding function bit, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a very low selling item. If I had to make a recommendation, it would definitely be the holding function bits for everyday work. I was actually so impressed I ordered the long version of the holding function set. If you run into instances where you have chewed up the bits and can't remove the screw, then it might be worth a look at the wedge bits. Otherwise, I don't see any significant advantage for the wedge bits over the holding function bits given the higher price. Hopefully you enjoyed that look at some of Wera's Torx bit styles. Check out the link in the description of the full review. There are also some affiliate links in the description if you feel the urge to pick any of these units up. Have a good week, and I'll catch you guys next time.